Welcome. This is kind of our first attempt at, we're going to call it Pigskin Pirates for now. So,
Yeah.
but we're going to basically, we're trying to get this in before the college football season. We'd like to expand on this down the road and do more college basketball, college football, NFL, other criteria. So we've been kind of rushing through doing some of these notes and stuff. But I'm Matthew, and this is Collin. So we're going to go through. This one's going to be more focused right now on the SEC, although we're going to talk about the playoff. I did do an analysis of the Big Ten. I did an analysis of teams outside the Big Two conferences like Miami, Notre Dame, Clemson, teams I feel like are in contention. And then I didn't do the Big 12 because I can't figure out who's going with the Big 12.
Yeah.
To be blunt, it's a very wide open league, but. But we'll kind of go through the SEC. There's some surprises just looking at it. There was a good one is Ole Miss. I have Ole Miss, for example, winning 10 games. We'll get that in a minute. But some of these teams have easier schedules. Some have harder schedules. Some have more returning than you would think. South Carolina's a good example. One has a lot returning, but they do have a little bit tough road. I'll get into that. But I guess we'll go alphabetical order. Jump into Alabama. Collin, do you have anything you want to mention?
I'd say their schedule definitely favors them this season. There aren't many crazy teams that they play. Obviously, they play Georgia. It's a juggernaut. Auburn's also going to be a big team. South Carolina. Besides that, Tennessee losing their quarterback, that makes them a lot less scary. I do see them winning 11 games. They only drop one to Georgia. I would say that's going to be game of the year, one score game, 35-38, so it's going to be a close game, but it's at Athens for the first time in I think 10 plus years, and I think Georgia takes that. But Auburn, Iron Bowl, pretty big game. I'd say they still beat them by 2 scores. Auburn it's one of those teams you can see them going 6-6, or you can see them going 10-2. It's a lot is still unknown about that Auburn team, and it'll be exciting to see them throughout the year. LSU, that's a big game. I see them sneaking away almost with that one. I'm really high on Garrett Nussmeier. I think he's a Heisman hopeful, top 5 Heisman candidate, I'd say. Say they beat them. Tennessee, it's always tough, even though that, Alabama's kind of owned them. Tennessee's starting to, they've won 2 of the past 3 times, so they're starting to creep in on them, but I think Alabama beats them here.
That's pretty good analysis. Actually, I tend to have some of the matchups. Now, I do have them at 10-2. I got them losing an upset game. I actually had them losing it to Missouri.
Oh, wow.
I think Missouri will be a little bit better than people expect. I think that now I still don't think Missouri's going to make the playoff, but I think they could be one of those dangerous teams. I still think DeBoe's trying to set a culture there. And that's why I kind of made a note. This is kind of a make or break year for him in Alabama because he's following Saban and his legacy, and had a kind of a rocky road the first year. But most time first year coaches have that.
Yeah.
He had that loss at Vanderbilt. I actually think the worst loss was the one at Oklahoma actually. And so, but that kind of knocked them out of the playoff. They were always kind of a borderline playoff team. I think their offense is going to be good. The question will be their secondary. Teams will be able to throw the ball on them. And that so teams with strong passing offenses. That's why I picked Missouri. Missouri's going to be able to throw the ball, I think. South Carolina is a dangerous game for them. That could be another one. LSU, as you mentioned, although they do get LSU in Tuscaloosa. Tennessee, I don't know. The quarterback situation's unknown. Them winning in Tuscaloosa, I think, will be I'm a Tennessee fan, obviously, but it'll be a tall order. But Tennessee has talent. It's just young talent. So we'll see how that goes. But I think Alabama will take care of Tennessee. Auburn is kind of a mixed bag because right now the PR in Auburn's not very good. So we'll see. I'll get to them when we talk about Auburn. But I think Alabama is a playoff contender. Will make the playoff and a national title contender. But I can also see them being a team that goes 8-4 as well. Their schedule is a little tricky with South Carolina, Missouri, LSU, Georgia. They got actually that game against Florida State. Florida State I know was a disaster last year, but who knows? 2 years ago they were an undefeated team. They could, if Alabama doesn't come out ready, they could shock some people too. They've been really bring in a lot of transfer players. I think they'll be an inconsistent team, but if all they do is be the best team that day to beat Alabama too. So there's a few tricky games for them, but overall I think Alabama's going to be probably they're my top 3 in the SEC.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Like, Ty Simpson, this is his first game starting, just like pure starting, and like if he doesn't come out ready, like Florida State could jump out fast, and next thing you know you're down 17 points. So
yeah.
Like, that's a game to watch in case Ty Simpson isn't 100% ready.
New quarterback is going to be a theme, not even just at the SEC. I know we're not doing the Big Ten, but I notice a lot of the Big Ten powers like Ohio State and Michigan are even going through that as well. Mm-hmm. And Oregon's another one. So now we got Arkansas. So Arkansas, unfortunately, I'm not as high on Arkansas. The thing that stinks about Arkansas, I feel like they have a very loyal, dedicated fan base, but the team just lately has not produced it on the field. And I think that they could give people some trouble, but I'm not sure Sam Pittman is going to be able to win enough games this year to get them back. Their schedule is brutally hard. Mm-hmm. I have them at 4-8. I don't have them winning. I think I have them beating Auburn and Mississippi State. That was the only SEC teams I have them beating. They could beat maybe Missouri if Missouri's not doing very well. They got Notre Dame and Memphis in the non-conference. Those are 2 games they could very much lose.
I like the total prediction. I also have them at 4-8. A little different. Obviously, I start out 2-0, but lose next 3. Ole Miss, Memphis, Notre Dame is just not an easy. I do have them beating A&M. It's a trap game. It's at Arkansas, so I see, Arkansas fans are pretty crazy, so I could see, them being real loud in that game. Besides that, I mean, it's not like, I don't want to say same old from Arkansas, but like, it's not an impressive season, I mean, LSU, Texas, Missouri, A&M, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Notre Dame. I mean, its schedule is abysmal, and it's hard to win more than 7 games in the SEC, so.
Yeah, and then just having Notre Dame. Notre Dame is one of my big sleepers for the national title because nobody's talking about them, but they were in the national title game last year. They returned a lot of players. They beat Georgia, the SEC champ. I'll get that when we get the national title picture, but they got them on the non-conference. Memphis is a very good G5 school. I mean, it's just hard to find wins here. They could give some people some trouble. Arkansas has talent. If you give them an easier schedule, they're probably bowling. Mm-hmm. But with this schedule, no way.
No.
So, Auburn's another team. I don't know. I'm kind of a mixed bag on Auburn. They could win a lot of games. They could total flop. They're one of those teams that they've still been trying to find themselves with Hugh Freeze. I'm not sure if Hugh Freeze really has got the momentum there going, or has them in a spot to where they can win. It's starting to sound like this is a make or break year. He has to produce something. They brought in Jackson Arnold from Oklahoma. He wasn't that impressive really, but sometimes you get in a new system, you look totally different. It's really with the quarterback. It's all about how they communicate with the receivers, and Auburn has 2 really good receivers out there. So I don't know. I had them at 6-6. I know you were a little bit higher on that. I'm losing to Baylor starting off. Have them losing at Oklahoma. Got them losing to Georgia, A&M, Alabama. Yeah, I did have them beating Vanderbilt. I almost kind of regret that now. I'm wondering if Diego Pavia can do enough to get by them too. I don't know, but I do think they'll be in contention for a bowl game. I don't see them in contention for the playoff.
Yeah, it's really nice to see such a difference because I have them actually at 10-2, and I think it all comes down to how they do against Baylor and A&M. Those are really important games, and if they can start out 1-0, then they're starting out 3-0, and then they're playing Oklahoma. So there's a lot of games that will make or break the momentum they have. Because they do play Georgia, they do play Alabama. I think those are, tough games that I don't think many people see them winning. But non-conference is favorable. They play Mercer, South Alabama, and Ball State. Those are all easy teams. They do play Baylor. Baylor's a sneaky good team.
Yeah.
You know, nobody's really talking about them. They brought in a few really good transfers. I do say them winning that Baylor game, though. That'll really propel them to getting, you know, somewhere 8-4 to 10-2. I have them on the higher end just because their schedule's pretty easy. Besides, you know, A&M, Georgia, Alabama, those are the only like really hard teams on their schedule.
Yeah, well, Baylor's one of those 100 teams that could win the Big 12 this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're. I think Baylor is probably going to be a top 25 team, but who knows? I just have to see Auburn struggling to get out of that game with a win. But if they do, you're right, that could fire them up. I'm higher on A&M. I think that they, although they don't have them at 8-4, I think A&M is going to be one of the more talented teams. They were not that far off from contending last year with the coach's name. Can't remember off the top of my head. The guy that came from Duke, Mike Elko.
Yeah.
Mike Elko. Yeah. With Mike Elko, they were close to contending his first year, but granted, they seem to be. Everybody says Texas 8-4. That's kind of the running gag with A&M. We'll get to them in a minute.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think the Arkansas game's tricky for Auburn. I think Arkansas is not that far below Auburn on talent. Auburn's like struggling to recruit. The PR around Auburn is not good right now. But you know, this is this put up or shut up year for Hugh Freeze. They gotta, if they win 10 games, he'll be fine. But if they're winning 5 or 6 games, which my fear their direction and trending towards, then he could be in trouble.
Yeah. He has 2 really popular transfers coming in, Jackson Arnold and Eric Singleton. So you got to think the offense has to be, you know, booming this year, or it's not going to be looking good for head coach.
Florida, another one. Florida's an interesting spot. I had them at. I think they're a team that's better than what their record's going to be. I have them at 6-6. Their schedule once again this year is brutally hard. I still don't have quite that much confidence in Billy Napier. I think he's an all right coach. I don't think he's an excellent coach. I'm not confident that. What's the quarterback's name? DJ Lagway, yeah. I'm not confident DJ Lagway is going to stay healthy all year long. That's one of my concerns. He's already suffering injuries in preseason camp. They did have a pretty good defense last year. I think they got talent around the ball. Their offense kind of is very spotty here or there. They played several teams really well, Georgia and Tennessee. I think they beat LSU and Ole Miss last year. But their schedule is just brutally hard. And a lot of teams that they had in the swamp last year, now they have to go on the road with. I had them at 6-6. I got them beaten in the SEC, Mississippi State, Kentucky, and Tennessee. And I got them beating Florida State. Got them losing to Miami in the non-conference. Miami's going to be – I think Miami will be a little bit down, but they'll be still really good. They got a lot of talent. Cristobal has a lot of talent there.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. And I actually have them 8-4, so not too far off. Obviously, I'm taking it, you know, just like if Lagway doesn't get hurt, I can see them winning 8 games. If he does get hurt, I have no idea how many games they're going to win. You know, I'd say it's like pretty dang low depending on when he gets hurt. But I see them losing to LSU. That's also going to be a great game to watch. Miami also, I don't see them really having the firepower against that defense to beat them. Texas, you know, I mean, just all around great team. In Georgia, same thing. Like, even though it's a rivalry, I think Georgia pulls that one away. Besides that, you know, I mean, not much to say. I would say this is a pretty big year for Billy Napier, and if he doesn't perform, I don't know if he would get fired, but he would definitely be on the hot seat next season if he's not already.
Yeah, Florida is in a prime recruiting location. It's kind of a sad story that all three. Well, not sad for me being a Tennessee fan, but all 3 of the Florida schools right now are just I wouldn't say dreadful. They're mediocre. Mm-hmm. Florida State's mediocre. Florida's mediocre. Miami's mediocre. Who would have thought that? I mean, and Miami's been mediocre for going on 20 years now. Florida State, you have to go back when they had
Winston,
yeah.
2013.
Yeah, 2013, they won the national title. I mean, they kind of had a good year 2 years ago before they played Georgia in the bowl game. But that was, yeah. So they've kind of, Florida had a couple good years with Dan Mullen, but they couldn't recruit very well. Napier has them recruiting in the teens. I mean, that's not good for Florida. Florida's a school you could go at and you should be winning at. And I think that eventually they got to run out of patience with Billy Napier. I don't think Billy Napier's the worst coach in the world. I just don't think he's going to take Florida to the level he's going to be. And I'm thinking this might be the last year for him. I have him losing. The other ones I had him losing to was A&M and Ole Miss. Yeah, so I had basically the same schedule you had, losing A&M, Ole Miss. They could theoretically lose to Tennessee if they're not healthy at the end of the year. I guess I haven't beaten Tennessee just because Tennessee cannot win in the swamp no matter what they do.
No.
Even with Florida could be like 2-10 and Tennessee be 11-0 and they'll lose in the swamp.
Yeah.
So they could lose to Florida State. I just don't know what Florida State. One game I feel like they could shock the world in is Texas. If you go look up the way Texas schedule's lining up, that trip to the swamp could be surprisingly difficult for Texas, especially if Texas isn't what we think they're going to be. But, yeah, I think Florida's going to be more of a spoiler. They're not a contender.
I think even last year, Florida kept it close for like 3 quarters in Texas until, eventually Quinn Ewers pulled it away. Yeah, like you said, being in Florida, like, you have to be recruiting good. Like Jeremiah Smith, straight out of Long Beach, and he's going up to Ohio State. Like,
yeah.
I mean, you got to keep some of these kids home,
And that's not just a Gator problem. That's a Seminole and a
Yeah.
Canes problem.
Yeah.
Although Miami is secretly recruiting, I've noticed Mario Cristobal is recruiting better there. Georgia, I don't think they'll go 12-0, but I had a hard time finding a loss for them. I think Georgia, granted the quarterback play fortunately Gunner got to play a little in the playoff, got some experience with that. I've heard coming out of Athens that the receivers are catching the ball far, but that was a big problem last year for Georgia. They had a lot of drops. I've heard that's improved. They've really improved on that. It's hard to bet against Kirby Smart. I think Kirby Smart, people think he's an elite coach just because he recruits well, but one thing of being in Tennessee, I remember 2022 when we had that explosive offense. The only team that had prepared and advanced was Kirby Smart. He had the perfect kryptonite to play that, and he outcoaches teams. They do have the sticking point with Alabama. It's kind of like Tennessee with Florida. It's like, Georgia has this problem with Alabama. Every team has this one team they
just don't play.
Yeah, don't play good against. And that you guys with the Georgia, it seems to be Alabama, but I think Georgia, unless Texas just really explodes on the scene, or DeBoer and Alabama really take off, I see Georgia probably winning the SEC. I mean, I think they have less question marks than other teams. I know a lot of people are high on Texas. Texas is the preseason number 1 in the coaches poll, but I think Texas is going to have a hard time winning in Athens, and I think that Georgia has. I still think most of it is Kirby Smart. I think Kirby Smart can outcoach Sarkisian.
Yeah, definitely.
That's why I think I have Georgia. I think they can out-scheme Texas. I think Texas may starting to be getting a little bit more talent. I still think Texas is building something. I think Texas is getting better and better year over year.
Yeah.
But and they may supplant Georgia next year. I think it's just a little early right now, but Georgia is definitely, I think, the team, in my view, is the team to beat in the SEC. The schedule this year is not as hard as last year. They had a hard schedule last year, but they get a lot of teams at home instead of the road, and they tend to have their non-conference is very easy.
Yeah. Obviously, Georgia fan like myself, I do see them going undefeated. Obviously, play Alabama. That's always a tough game. Like I said, first year it's in Athens ever since, I think, 2011. I don't remember the exact stat, but it's been a long time, and I think Georgia fans will definitely show out for that game. So I think this is the year we finally beat them in the regular season. I think Kirby Smart is gonna beat the brakes off of Ole Miss just because of what happened last year. They got kind of embarrassed in that game. I think he's gonna really, you're gonna see a really lopsided score that game. Florida, neutral site, tough game. I think it's always tough playing Florida for just about every team. I think he's got it there too. Really, the main talk is Alabama, Texas. Last year he had or Kirby Smart had him like Arch Manning, even though he's like second string, like when he gets out there, he's still seeing stars. Quinn Ewers threw 3 interceptions. I think Arch Manning even threw an interception because like Sark put him out there. Especially because it's in Athens, I see them winning that game. But I don't see them getting very far in the postseason. They'll probably win the SEC. That makes sense, but I don't see them going any farther than the semis, like Ohio State, Penn State. I think they're all just like getting outclassed at that point.
Yeah, it's harder. We'll get to the playoff in a minute, who I think could potentially win. Some of their tougher games there are a few tricky games for Georgia. Right now I have Georgia winning all of them, but obviously the first one's one in Knoxville, just because I think Georgia's the only team to win in Knoxville in the last 3 years. It's hard to win in Knoxville. You got to start early starting quarterback, and you start out with Marshall and Austin Peay. So the talent gap. Tennessee's the first real test for Georgia.
Yeah.
Tennessee plays Syracuse. I know Syracuse ain't the best in the world. That's more of a test than Marshall and Austin Peay. So they'll have at least some experience, real game experience, before they play Georgia. But that's if Tennessee. Tennessee has a lot of question marks, so we don't know what the team's going to be. But Georgia's a better team than Tennessee. Just in theory, they could go in there, crowd being loud, turn over the ball a few times, get in a problem. That could be a loss. Even if it is, though, I don't see Tennessee being able to capitalize much on it. So I think Tennessee will still lose to Alabama and Florida, and Georgia had a better season. They could lose to Alabama. That's been the kryptonite. Texas, as you alluded to, and then the final tricky one you didn't probably talk about is Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech really took them. Probably should have beaten them in Athens.
They should have, yeah.
And Georgia Tech could be sneaky, difficult game in Atlanta. Although I believe in recent history, and I don't have the statistic. I think Georgia tends to actually play better at Georgia Tech than they do in Athens when they play Georgia Tech. Some weird thing about that where they play better on the road versus at home against that opponent.
Yeah, it seems like Georgia Tech has just been on like a steady rise. They've like increased their win total by 2 for the past 3 years. I mean, they're building a really good team. Haynes King's been there since, the dawn of the dinosaurs, but I think it's, going to be a pretty good team this season.
Kentucky. This is a hard one for me. I had them at 4-8, but this team, I feel like it's going to be the same old vintage Kentucky team. They'll have a good defense. They'll be able to run the ball somewhat. Their passing game will be atrocious. It's just going to be the same patent MO for Kentucky. The problem is the opponents around Kentucky are getting better. Kentucky in the past could win 7-8 games. I think there was a couple seasons they won 10 games. Mark Stoops doing that. I just don't see. They don't have quite the talent to out-bully everybody on their schedule, and they don't have the passing game. So I just wasn't that high on Kentucky this year.
Yeah, all their great young players have transferred to other schools. It's just not looking great for Kentucky, honestly. 3-9. They beat Toledo, Eastern Michigan, and Tennessee. I don't see them winning a single SEC game, to be for real. Their schedule is pretty crazy. South Carolina, Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, Auburn, in that order, is crazy, to say the least. They could beat Vanderbilt and Louisville. Besides that, I don't see much coming from them this season.
Yeah, I originally I flopped on who would win between them and Vanderbilt. I originally had them beating Vanderbilt, and then I went back and I don't know. I guess I have a little bit more confidence in Diego Pavia with Vanderbilt to beat them.
I don't even know who's the starting quarterback for Kentucky.
Yeah, I did know them. I couldn't even tell you. But like I said, I think it'll be the same vintage Kentucky. But yeah, this schedule is just atrocious. They'll win some of their non-conference. They could beat Ole Miss. They did shock Ole Miss last year. That could be an SEC game they beat. LSU. So everybody is really high on LSU. I was listening to OEN3. They predicted LSU to win the national title. There's several people who have them going to the playoff. I'm not as high on LSU, so I think they'll be a good team. Don't get me wrong, but it seems to be every year we get LSU as a top 10 team, and then they lose their opener, and they lose 2 or 3 other games, and then they have a okay. Like I said, it's not a bad season, but it's not they never quite live up to their expectations. Actually got them losing the opener again. I mean, I don't see them going in Clemson and winning. Now, granted, part of the reason they're losing in their opener every year is they're actually playing a real team in their opener every year.
Yeah.
But I think the first, it dates all the way back to even the COVID year when they lost to Mississippi State. So they've not won an opener since 2019. But have them winning several games. I got them losing at Ole Miss, at Alabama, and then I got them losing to Oklahoma. I'm a little bit higher on Oklahoma this year. I don't think Oklahoma's going to be stellar, but I think they're going to be a lot better than they were in 2024. So I got those are my 4 losses were Clemson, Ole Miss, Alabama, and Oklahoma. Now they have a load of talent though. They got a hard schedule. But you're right. I think their passing game is going to be very good. Their quarterback play is going to be very good. They do have some issues with their defense. I think specifically their secondary, and that seems to be the hardest part of the defense. When I say most teams have problems with their defense, it's usually the secondary. It seems to be the hardest area to get to cover. For teams to build on, and I feel like that's an area where LSU may be a little bit vulnerable this year.
So I don't want to say I'm like falling for the hype, but I do have them 10-2. I don't see them beating Clemson. They're going to Clemson. Cade Klubnik's a great quarterback, great head coach. I mean, I think not a good way to start, but I don't see them losing another game until they play Alabama. That's always a hard team, always a hard team to play. I don't think they beat them this year. It's always 50-50 when they play. But my thing with LSU, I think they're going to have the best passing offense in the country. I would say their first 4 wide receivers could be wide receiver 1 on just about 80% of the teams out there. So Garrett Nussmeier and all their wide receivers is a very dangerous team. They could put up 50, but then they could give up 50. Secondary is not very good. Front 4 is just okay. I think the main thing is how many points are they going to give up a game. It's not like how much are they going to score. They're going to score at least 30 in just about every game. But how many points are they going to give up? I don't know. It's probably going to be a lot.
There is this mistake with LSU that makes me think, kind of leaning on what you're saying, it seems like every 5 to 6 years they put together a national title contending team. They had like the one in 2003, then they had the one in 2007, and then they had the one recently in 2019. I guess there's a bigger, but they had a couple of good years between that. It is almost this vibe that's almost like due. It's like, are they ready for a 2019 kind of breakout year? Because that's them and Auburn. They tend to have like periods of mediocrity, then all of a sudden they have this breakout year. Maybe this is their year.
Yeah.
We'll see. I've not been as, like I said, I've not been as high on Brian Kelly and LSU right now. I don't think he's a bad coach. I'm not sure it's fitting very well, but we'll see. They could another tricky game. You laugh, but a game that might could shock them is they got to go to Vanderbilt, and people always say, "Oh, Vanderbilt, they're the homecoming opponent of the SEC." But Alabama went to Vanderbilt last year as number 1 team. We saw it happen. So this Vanderbilt team is, I feel like, a dangerous team too. So that was one other note I missed with LSU. But LSU, I am a mixed bag on them. They could explode on the schedule and win 9 or 10, 11 games, but they could also flop and go 8-4. I don't see them having like a losing year or something. Their flop is probably 8-4.
Yeah, I'd say their floor is 8-4, something like that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Ole Miss. This is a team I didn't think they'd be that good. I went through their schedule, and sometimes I maybe when I do analysis too, I tend to favor home teams a little too much. I've noticed that when I feel try to project records and stuff. But I have them winning 10 games, mostly due to their schedule. I don't even think they're that much. Like, if you had to tell me if LSU or Ole Miss was a better team, I might go with LSU. In fact, I think Ole Miss is probably more in line level of Florida. But if LSU and Florida had Ole Miss's schedule, I'd be a lot higher on them. So this was kind of a team, them and Missouri, and to a degree I'll get to Tennessee, their schedules are such favorable that I have them winning a lot of games and maybe being a dark horse for the playoff. I do say that they Austin Simmons seems to be a pretty good backup for Jackson Dart. Lane Kiffin knows how to coach offenses. Every year he's been there, it's been explosive. The defense has improved there. They were a little inconsistent at times last year, giving up some big plays, but they are growing a lot, and they have a very soft front end of the schedule. They play 5 games that are very winnable. Then before Kentucky, I guess, could be tricky. Then they get LSU at home after that 5-game stretch. So they could come in, shock LSU after LSU plays a hard schedule. Start out 6-0, and then it's kind of the sky's the limit. I have them losing to Georgia, and I have them losing to South Carolina. Those are my 2 losses for them. I have them winning every other game.
I have them going 8-4. I am pretty high on Austin Simmons. He's really mobile quarterback. I think he runs track currently in college, so that'll be something to look out for. But schedule is pretty easy for SEC. I do think that they start out 4-0, and then they it's not like a crazy game, but I do think they lose to LSU, and then they'll lose to Georgia after that. So Florida and South Carolina, it's like it honestly could go either way.
Yes.
It's kind of one of those games like whoever starts out hot is going to win the game, and that's kind of how these are going to go. I would say they're not even leveled teams, like both teams excel in very different things. So I could really see it going either way, but I see them losing to both Florida and South Carolina. 8-4, it's a okay season. For Lane Kiffin, I'd say it's a little subpar, but what can you do in the SEC? Besides that, not much to touch on, I guess.
Yeah, if you're an Ole Miss fan, you got to be happy at 8-4 because that program, they're not a bad program. They're just not an elite program.
They've never
either.
been able to
consistently win. Lane Kiffin's probably right now, winning percentage wise, one of the better coaches. I think they had John Vaught back in the 60s. They were really good and they were winning the SEC, but you have to go way back to that time period. They've not done much since then. Their schedule being so easy, sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it can be backfire, though. Mm-hmm. I've seen teams before, they get these easy schedules. I feel like it happened to Missouri last year. I felt like Missouri was a really good team last year, but their schedule was so soft, they were just kind of like, the players don't get up for some of those softer games, and they catch you sometimes. So it could backfire on Ole Miss, but I think they have a pretty easier road compared to some of the other teams we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not going to dwell much on Mississippi State. They'll be better than last year, but they don't have a win in the SEC play. They don't play anybody. They don't play like the Kentuckys or the Vanderbilts. They do play Arkansas. I guess that's their best chance for a win, but it's in Fayetteville. Tennessee might be an opportunity for them to upset Tennessee. Heupel tends to have problems on the road, but Heupel also knows Jeff Lebby. They came from the same system. Mm-hmm. Tennessee knows that system very well. They'll be able to. I don't see Mississippi State winning that one either. So I don't have them winning an SEC game, and I got them going 3-9 in the non-conference. I have them losing Arizona State, who's really good, and Arizona State has to go to Starkville. If Arizona State loses in Starkville, they've got problems.
Yeah. I'm not going to spend much time on it. They start 3-1. And then they're 3-9. I don't see them winning a single SEC game. I wouldn't say it's like that far, but they are the worst team in the SEC. Arkansas, like you said, best chance to pick up a win. I don't see it happening.
Yeah.
To be quite frank, 3-9, not much to talk about there.
Missouri, this is another one that once again, and part of the reason why is they had an easy schedule last year and it just flopped this year. But I was high on Missouri because their schedule. Well, one call out on their schedule. It's great to see them playing Kansas again. I'm not sure with all this we'll get to conference alignment stuff later, but It's like that was a big, nice. That was the borderline rivalry. It's great to see that back on the schedule again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure why, like when Texas A&M joined the SEC, they couldn't play Texas in a non-conference, or with some of these teams who are why Nebraska can't play Oklahoma more. I guess they have played lately, so I can't call it out too much. But some of these teams, they get like sour grapes and they won't play each other. But I'm glad to see that Kansas back on the schedule for Missouri. They need to play in basketball because that's where the rivalry was always really nice. But yeah, looking through their schedule, I have them losing 2 home games to Alabama and South Carolina. Got them losing at Oklahoma. Oklahoma probably has this mystique about them. They could lose to Auburn and Vandy. Those are 2 tricky games. So I have them winning them right now. Outside of that, I mean, this team had a lot of toss-up games. I do got them beating A&M and Columbia, but that's another game they could lose. So in theory, their schedule is manageable. It may not. I don't think it's as easy as Ole Miss's schedule, but because there are some teams that could beat them on it. But Missouri, I think it's even though it's kind of a rebuilding year, they're bringing in some good pieces. I think they'll have a good defense, good passing game. I think they'll shock some people. I got them at 9-3.
Oh wow. I was too young to know Kansas and Missouri had a rivalry. I just learned that like last week. That's cool that they're playing them again, though. I have them 7-5. Eli Drinkwitz is, he's a pretty good coach. I would say he's okay for SEC coaching. 7-5. It's mainly because they play in the SEC. I think this is a great team, and I think if they're playing anywhere else, they're getting 9 games. They lose South Carolina. I don't think that's a close game. They lose to Auburn. I don't think that's a close game. Alabama too. Those aren't great close games. I think those are losses that they'd want to forget about. A&M, that's going to be a close loss. I'd say they only lose by like 3 points, something like that. That's a game they could take though. Like I can see them going 9-3. Like they could beat A&M and Oklahoma and have a really good second half of the season. But I have them losing to Oklahoma too. I don't even want to say it's like a rebuilding season, but I think next season they could win 9-10 games definitely. But right now, I can't see anything more than like 8 wins or so.
Yeah, and I might be a little high on them because I'm looking at their schedule again. There's a lot of I list the games initially as toss-ups. I'll put like a toss-up, and then I pick somebody to win, like T win. There's a lot of they got like 9 games on their schedule that are toss-ups for me. So even the games you think they should win, like Arkansas, could be tricky, or Vanderbilt, Diego Pavia could go off on them, and so it might be a situation where I could see 7-5. Maybe not the teams you got. Maybe they lose somebody we aren't projecting, because that always tends to happen. These teams lose games we're not projecting, and they beat people we don't think they could beat. So I think Missouri's going to be a competitive program, though. And like you said, I like what Eli Drinkwitz is doing there, even though they annoyed the snot out of Tennessee. I'm glad I think we beat them, or did they beat us last time we played them? I can't remember, but
I don't even remember.
Yeah,
yeah.
Actually it was 23, so they did beat us in 23. We beat them in 22, pretty bad, in 21. But yeah, there's probably something going on there with Tennessee, Missouri. They need to have them playing again.
Yeah.
So. Oklahoma, or what we used to call Choklahoma back in the day. My wife finds that one funny, but no, I got Oklahoma doing better this year. I think that I just drew a blank. The coach came from Clemson, defensive guy. Brett Venables. Yeah, I think Brett Venables. I have his name right here. I think this is kind of another make or break year for this coach. Oklahoma, a program that's used to winning 9 or 10 games. They traditionally played in the Big 12. Big 12, nothing against it. It has good teams here and there, but you don't have multiple teams recruiting in the top 15 every year nationally in recruiting. And I'll get to that when I talk about the national forecast about the Big 12. But other than Texas and Oklahoma were the power weights of the Big 12. And I get that, TCU was beating them or Kansas State was beating them, but Kansas State and TCU aren't going to go win a national title.
And they're not like nationally recognized teams.
The best year for OU, they can't match the best year when OU. They could beat OU when they're down. Anybody can beat a team when it's down. But, like Auburn. Auburn's down right now. Yeah, they could have beaten Auburn last year. But, I think Oklahoma will be better this year. I got them losing to, I think they'll be undefeated. I got them undefeated going into Texas. Now, they got a very challenging non-conference game against Michigan. That, to me, is a total 100% toss-up. I did not even want to project that game. That one, and the Ohio State-Texas is another one as well. I didn't even want to project it because I feel like Michigan and Ohio State are probably about on the same level. I went with Oklahoma just because it was in Norman, but, I mean, it's going to depend on the kickoff, how the teams are playing. And whoever wins that game is going to have momentum. Since I have Oklahoma winning it, I think they'll enter the season with momentum. I think they'll go unbeaten until they play Texas in the Red River Shootout. Then they get Texas and Red River Shootout. Texas is just too talented for Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma will probably at some point be winning the game, but I think Texas will end up beating them. I got them losing to South Carolina, Tennessee, and Alabama. I think Alabama gets revenge on this year. I do think they beat LSU. I got them beating Missouri, and I got them beating Ole Miss. Very difficult schedule. I think they're good enough to beat some of those teams in the schedule this year. While last year they really, I guess they did beat Auburn and Alabama last year, but they didn't really compete with a lot of the teams on their schedule very well. I think they'll be more competitive this year than they were last year, and I think their offense won't be spectacular, but it'll be improved, and their defense will be tough again. They had a lot of injuries last year too, and from everything coming out of the preseason camp, the team has been a little playing healthier this year, less injuries, so they'll have more pieces back.
Yeah. Michigan game, it's like a make or break game, and that's like so weird to hear because it's not even a conference game. But if they lose that game, they'll lose to Auburn, Texas, South Carolina, Tennessee, Alabama, LSU. So
and looking at, I did Michigan as well. It's kind of for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
The winner of that's going to get huge momentum coming out of that game. Both programs need that win.
So on my schedule, I have them beating Michigan. Why? I probably flipped a coin. I don't even know.
Yes.
Yeah, like you said, it's gonna come down to like something like how many fumbles were, or how like which way did the kickoff go? I don't know. It's gonna be really random.
Who's going to catch a pass?
Yeah.
Who's going to miss a block? The little fundamentals it'll come down to.
So, I'd say if they win that game, kind of like you said, I don't think they lose a game until they play Texas, and then they're gonna just get. I mean, it's Texas. Like, I don't want to glaze, but I mean, Texas is a really good football team, so I don't see them winning that game. Same with South Carolina. Don't see them winning that either. I'd say Ole Miss is gonna be a close game, and not many people are even gonna watch it, but I think that's a team that Ole Miss could lose to. It's very plausible.
If we have any Sooner fans watching, they just got mad at you about nobody watching it.
Oh, yeah. Same with Tennessee. I mean, hopefully by then they have their quarterback situation settled, but right now, I mean, I've heard 3 different names that could play quarterback first week of the season for Tennessee.
Oh, talking about Tennessee. Yeah, we'll get to them in a minute, but...
Then they lose to Alabama. I mean, I think Alabama's going to be pretty salty that they lost last year the way they did. Last game of the season, LSU, I see them losing that too. So, they'll end up losing 4 games. Not in the way that you would think, though. So,
after some thought, if I had to go back and change, I would probably have, and of course, just change LSU's record 9-3. I think LSU probably will beat Oklahoma. They got more talent. I can see that one happening. That may be something on my side have different. But, yeah, I think they'll have a better season, but it won't be, Center fans use these 10 or 11 wins. That's not going to happen.
No.
The Gamecocks. This is another team. I think they're number 13 in the coaches poll. People were pretty high on them. Frank Beamer is doing a good job there. He's building something. They tend to be very inconsistent. There's a lot of questions about this team, but I think the stability of quarterbacks one thing people like a little there. I do think they're a little overhyped. I had them at 8-4. I still think they're going to be a good team though. I got them, of course. I actually got them starting the season 5-0. They don't lose to LSU. I got them losing to LSU off that bye. And then I also got them losing to Alabama, A&M, and I got them being Clemson. But a lot of people, they're a favored team to beat Clemson just because where it lines up in Clemson's schedule. Clemson has a very soft schedule. We won't get to them on this podcast, but they that's one of the hardest games on Clemson's schedule. But I have Clemson beating South Carolina.
I am really high on South Carolina. I would say that's, like you said, definitely because of Sellers. This year, it seems like, there's like half a dozen quarterbacks that could go in like this first, second round in the draft. There's so many, guys out there that could, that really good in the SEC. I have them 10-2. I see them actually going 6-0. They'll beat LSU. And then, I did that wrong. No. They start 5-0 and then they lose to LSU. Yeah. So, that LSU South Carolina game is going to be one of those, like, really high score games, like 38-41, something like really, like, outrageously big score. I think it's just going to be, what quarterback is better. And I think that's going to be Garrett Nussmeier in that game.
And that was a heck of a game last year.
Yeah.
That controversial call that led to LSU win.
I actually have them beating Oklahoma. I don't have them losing to Oklahoma. I think that'll, they'll just like try to get back on their feet and it'll be, relatively easy win. Then they play Alabama. I don't see them winning that. It'll be a close game, but I don't see, not this year. No, I don't see them winning. And then they'll sweep the rest of their season. A&M might be tough. Who knows?
Yeah, A&M's kind of. We'll get to them a little bit. They're kind of a sleeper too.
Mm-hmm.
They could. That's a team that could go 8-4 like they always do, or they could pump out 11-1 season. We don't know. They got the talent.
And I have them beating Clemson. It's one of those games where now it's Clemson just does not play the same when they play South Carolina. It's just like night and day.
Well, it's a rivalry game.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Auburn, Alabama, or Texas, Oklahoma. There's a scenario where Oklahoma could beat Texas.
Yeah.
Texas, as talented as they are, Oklahoma being a big rival. Oklahoma has beaten some really good Texas teams in the past. The same situation here. To me, this is more of a toss-up. I went with Clemson, but I could see South Carolina beating Clemson.
Yeah.
My big orange now. So I'll go into what being a Tennessee fan, I keep them a little bit more probably than others. I think the 2025 Tennessee is not going to be that much different than 2024 team. There's talk of maybe them throwing more. Everybody's pointing to the quarterback. I think the three quarterbacks in contention are all looking really good, but there's a problem. The wide receiver core is actually the problem in Tennessee.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's not a lot of depth there, and they've had some injuries. And that was a problem kind of for last year with Nico. Even though Nico did not live up to hype, the wide receiving core didn't do him any favors either. Mm-hmm. So the passing game of Tennessee will struggle a little bit, their wide receiver core. I've heard very good, shockingly, one question mark. I'm hearing good stuff about the offensive line. The offensive line at Tennessee is gelling real quick, which could be interesting. I expect them to run the ball and play defense like they did last year. It'll look a lot like last year. And with the games they got in their schedule, that can win them 8-9 games easily. It's not going to win them their big games. My three losses are the three teams that Tennessee always tends to have a problem with: Alabama, Florida, Georgia. I got them losing to those three. I got them beating everybody else. There's a few dangerous games. I think Mississippi State and Kentucky, just because the Heupel's road situation is dangerous. Oklahoma is a talented team they play. Syracuse, if Tennessee don't come out and play real well. But I think with the talent they have and the fact the way they play at home, in the case of Oklahoma, they always play a lot better at home. I think they can win those games. Now, in theory, if they could catch Georgia on a bad day, which Georgia usually plays Tennessee well with Kirby Smart. Mm-hmm. Prior to Kirby Smart, they didn't. There was a lot of Mark Richt teams that lost to Tennessee that were heavily favored. But if they catch Georgia on a bad game, they could win 10 games. Or if Florida ends up falling apart, maybe they could beat that game and then get that elusive 10-2 and be in the playoff talk. But even if they made the playoff, they'd probably be out the first game. I don't think this is it's not a bad Tennessee team. I just don't. They're not winning I don't feel like they're really, unless just everything the stars align. I don't see them being like a SEC or national title contender. I mean, I hate to say it. I'm not expecting a whole lot out. And 8-4 or 7-5 are a possibility if things just go rough for them. But I think the wide receiving core is probably something to watch out with Tennessee, as that could impact quarterback play.
So Tennessee is just one of those. It's like a really weird team to rank because it's like 6-6 is very well possible, and 10-2 is very well possible. It just comes down to the 2-score games, the 1-score game. Who wins that? I have them 8-4. They do beat Syracuse, neutral site. It's just gonna come down to how does whoever starts plays. If they start out good and they start off hot, then yeah, they'll beat Syracuse. But there's many worlds out there where they can lose that game because they're starting off 2 for 10, 2 interceptions or something like that. I have them losing to Georgia. Like you said, it doesn't seem like they ever play good against Georgia. I have them losing to Alabama too. Seems like they're just going back and forth with who wins that now. I don't think this is the year they beat them though. I actually have them losing to Oklahoma. Let me see, how do I word this? I feel like the quarterback play is, going to determine how they win this one, or if they do win this one. I think that Oklahoma defense will get under the quarterback's skin. Kind of why they lose to Alabama and Georgia too. Like, that defense is really good, and they can hold Alabama to 20 points. They can hold Georgia to 20 points, and then they're going to score 10 points. Like, it's a really weird year, especially from Heupel, because when he was at Purdue, he was offensive mastermind, 40 points a game, stuff like that. It's totally different mentality here. Fourth game, I think they're going to lose to Florida. I think that just makes sense. They're going to the swamp. It's rough down there, especially for Tennessee, and I don't see them winning that game.
Yeah, I know maybe homers, but even taking off my homer glasses, the Oklahoma game seems like something. Being Heupel's connections there, the fact it's in Knoxville, and the only team they've lost to in Knoxville the last 3 years was a Georgia team that won the national title, and so they've beaten Florida, Alabama, and Knoxville. They tend to win every game in Knoxville, so that's why I kind of leaned against that one. As a Tennessee fan, if I had to pick a fourth loss, I would go with a weird one like Kentucky or Mississippi State. Kind of like last year was Arkansas.
Or Vanderbilt.
Well, Vanderbilt being in Knoxville. Once again, it would be a non-Knoxville game. It would be a road game. Heupel has issue. They tend to play very well in Knoxville. They tend to not play well outside Knoxville. So that's why, I'm kind of saying Mississippi State or Kentucky. Of course, Alabama and Florida, the other two road games. That's why I'm not as confident. Florida was in Knoxville. I'd actually pick Tennessee this year, too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Kind of like last year. I think it's whether it's in Knoxville or not. And so I think that, Kentucky might be a dangerous game for Tennessee. That one's right after Alabama, between them and Oklahoma. But, yeah, who knows? They could explode, but talent-wise, or team-wise, I'm not sure if they're going to – I feel like this is a rebuilding year for next year. Okay, here comes the media darling, Texas. I'll say this, Texas has been in this spot a lot, even back when they were back when they were Big 12, and people wrote them saying, Texas, we're back, and that was right before they would have a plummet.
Yeah.
And so here's the we're back. Now they've put together back-to-back years of it. They were Big 12 champions 2 years ago, made the playoff. Lost, I think, the Washington Huskies.
Yeah, Washington.
And then this past year they made the playoff again, advanced in the playoff, beating Arizona State. Then they lost to Ohio State and went on to win national title. So Steve Sarkisian's been building them up. So you seem like there's more consistent with him than there was with like Mike Sherman or the Charlie Strong or the coaches before them. But this is their we're back year, and this is when Texas has in recent histories flopped. A year like this. Now, I don't have them flopping. I have them going 10-2. losses to Ohio State in the opener, which is, to me, a true toss-up. Because Ohio State, even though it's in the I went with Ohio State because it's in the horseshoe, but they got to replace their quarterback. They got to replace a lot of players. They're it's kind of a rebuilding year for Ohio State, but I think they will. Then I got them losing to Georgia. They have other tricky games. Oklahoma, a little bit tricky. Just where it lines up, Florida could be tricky. I would say A&M, but Texas tends to own A&M.
Yeah.
So A&M has the talent to beat Texas, but there seems to be some kind of mental block there. So I have them winning that one pretty soundly. But at 10-2, they're going to be. It'll probably be them in Georgia in a rematch in Atlanta, or them in Alabama. Maybe Alabama could usurp them, but Texas got kind of like Tennessee and Ole Miss. Texas has kind of a very easy SEC slate. I mean, both Tennessee and Texas have the Vandy, Kentucky, Mississippi State, Arkansas lineup, and that's what helps their schedule.
I think this is the first time we have the exact same schedule rank. I have them 10-2, only losing to Ohio State and Georgia. I think the Ohio State game, it's really just kind of like what most of these I've been saying for most of these games. How does the quarterback play look? It's Arch Manning versus who's starting for Ohio State? It's not Travis St. Clair. It's somebody else.
Yeah, I can't remember that name too. He's
I don't think he's a transfer. He's been there for a few. Anyway, he's I think he's a junior or something. He's a little older than Arch, so I think he'll take that. Purely based off just being a little more experienced around the football. It seems like Texas, Georgia is the new Georgia, Alabama. It seems like if Texas had to have a kryptonite, it would be Georgia, just based off how the first two times they played them, they did not look the same at all.
Well, the challenge with 2024 Texas is they really didn't have a very difficult schedule outside of Georgia.
Yeah.
They didn't play Alabama. They didn't play Tennessee. They didn't play Ole Miss. They didn't play a lot of the better SEC teams in 2024. So it was like their only real challenge was Georgia. So who knows? They could have beaten all those teams I just listed, or they could have lost all of them. They also dodged South Carolina and Missouri. So they really didn't have any of the SEC teams that won eight plus games outside of Georgia, and they lost to Georgia. And I think they had A&M. It was probably their next toughest opponent outside of Georgia in the SEC play. They didn't play LSU either. They dodged them. So and once again they're dodging all those teams. Those teams aren't on their schedule. So that schedule alone sets them up to be in contention for the SEC. Like I said, the Ohio State game, I could see them winning that. It's just going to Columbus and winning. If it was in Austin, maybe I'd have a different view, but I just don't see that happening. Now, they will make the playoff. We'll get to that when we talk about the playoff in a little bit. And then we got Texas 8-4, A&M. No surprise, I have them 8-4. So you almost if you're going to gamble on a record for Texas A&M, it's like you almost want to bet 8-4 every year. It's and that's the same record they kind of had last year. But I feel like this team's going to be a better team than last year. I got them losing to Notre Dame, got them losing to LSU, got them losing to Missouri. But although that's a game that I think they can win. And got them losing to Texas. I'm pretty confident they'll lose Notre Dame and Texas. LSU seems pretty confident as well. I think they could, they might could go 9-3. I just they have to get over the hump. They have to beat somebody or win a game they typically don't win, like a Notre Dame or a Texas or something of that nature. They to get over the hump, they have to finally do that. And I don't see it quite this year. I'm starting to feel like Mike Elko could be different than their past coaches, and they could get into contention quicker than you think. And keep in mind, they've recruited in the top 5 the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, they've always been there.
Yeah, it's just they can't get the players with the potential. If he can get them to a little potential, they could be scary. And a lot of people think they could be. And a lot of it is quarterback play. A&M, what killed Jimbo Fisher's A&M team was quarterback play. And can they get solid enough quarterback play to win these bigger matchups?
This was probably the craziest ranking I had them. I had them 6-6. I would say their schedule doesn't help them at all. They're playing Notre Dame. That's not a game I think they're favored. They play Texas, South Carolina, LSU, Florida, and Auburn. those are my 6 losses. I mean, none of those. I mean, it's possible they win 7 games. I think 8 games is even like a stretch. Like if they could beat Auburn, Florida, maybe. Like that's even like a not likely. I don't know what to think about Marcel Reed anymore. Start of the season, no. Halfway through the season, yeah. End of the season, no. So I don't know. I think he'll have a step up, but I don't think it's enough of a step up to really, even be ranked at the end of the year. Strength of schedule is going to be a big thing. They'd need to, go to the Big 12 or something to win 9-10 games, something like that.
Yeah, they were there and they were in the same boat.
Yeah.
Just seems like they're always, no matter what conference they're in, they're always stuck around that 8 or 9 win. They when they joined the SEC, I thought it was a very good move for A&M. I thought that was going to propel them to the next level. I think they thought the same thing, and it hasn't. In a lot of ways, I'd be curious. I'd love the number crunches, maybe for a future show. Compare Missouri and A&M, who has won more football games since they've been in the SEC. I would almost venture to say it might be Missouri. I know Missouri had quite a few, but between the Gary Pinkel and the Eli Drinkowitz era, they weren't that great. They were having a lot of 6-6 mediocre seasons, but they've had better. You feel like Missouri's actually performed better than A&M, despite A&M having so much resources and so much advantage. And now the Longhorns are in the SEC. It's like they're back to being little brother again.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Well, and it's linear versus exponential. Like Missouri won 10 games, 9 games. For as long as I've watched football, Texas A&M has won 8 games. So I mean, it's it'd be very interesting to see.
Yeah, when you projected it, you thought when Missouri joined the SEC, they're just going to be. And it's kind of getting to the expansion talk later on the show. I want to talk about like North Carolina, them coming to the SEC and what that may look like. But nobody thought Missouri would do that hot, and here they are. We're talking about have they performed better than A&M. I mean, heck, we'll compare their first 10 years against first 10 years of Oklahoma. You would think Oklahoma would just totally outshine them, but who knows? Missouri has punched above its weight in football in the SEC. Vanderbilt, the Commodores. So Diego Pavia is talking a lot of smack in the offseason. Can he back it up? I'll let you go first. We'll change the tradition.
So I think that Diego Pavia is still even in college football is honestly unreal. I think he's like 27. I'm kind of a hater on Diego Pavia. He's a great quarterback. Like, don't get me wrong, but I don't know. He's just like talks a lot of smack for going to Vanderbilt. I have them going 6-6. For Vanderbilt, that's not even that bad,
That's great for Vanderbilt.
Yeah, for I mean, you can talk some smack. I know you're a Tennessee fan, but for Vanderbilt to go bowling, that's pretty good. I do like their head coach. I think he's doing something down there. I don't know. It's really hard to recruit when you have Tennessee and Memphis and all these. I mean, those two are. I mean, Memphis and Vanderbilt are kind of on the same level. They're into like completely different spots right now, but it's really hard to recruit against Tennessee.
Yeah, well, Tennessee's not one of the hotbed. It has good talent, but it's not like a hotbed state like a Georgia or Florida or a Texas or a Alabama. So even University of Tennessee Knoxville, they recruit well if you look at them in the national picture, but you look at them against their rivals, they usually get out-recruited by Florida, Alabama, Georgia. That's been Tennessee's problem under Hypeware. They still can't get quite the top consistently recruiting class. He's upgraded them a lot. But Vanderbilt, it's always been a problem. Vanderbilt has the higher academic standards, the not winning tradition. And but one thing we'll call this out. We kind of have our paraphernalia on the table, and I brought this football. This is actually a Vanderbilt football signed by James Franklin. I got it through a drawing. I got to meet James Franklin. One thing James Franklin always said at Vanderbilt I thought was kind of interesting. He said, one thing when I go to recruits, I tell them that if you go to Alabama or Georgia, you'll just be another guy. But you can go to Vanderbilt and do something special because they never won. So I guess that's a way to recruit. But I had them at 4-8. This is one I debated changing, though, because I looked at their schedule, marked up a lot of losses. But I think they're kind of, I'd say they're one of those spoiler teams with Diego Pavia, some of the talent they got on defense and stuff. They're always going to have a puncher's chance in a lot of these big games. and so it's going to be one of these teams. There'll be some elite team. Even Texas is one of them could do this. They won't bring their A game to Vanderbilt and maybe get caught and bit by them. I think you may have somebody out there to do that. I have them losing to Virginia Tech. I don't see them beating them back-to-back years. Got them losing to South Carolina, Alabama. Probably better for me to say who I got them beating. I got them beating the 3 of the non-conference in Kentucky. But they could beat Auburn. If I'd go back and change it, I think they could beat Auburn. I think they could beat Missouri. They could catch Texas sleeping. They could catch about any of them. I don't see them beating Tennessee just because it's a big rivalry game and Tennessee gets up for them. It's the last game of the year for them. Alabama's going to cream them this year.
Yeah.
I don't see it winning in Tuscaloosa. After all the trash talk, Alabama's going to be out for blood in that game.
I think that Alabama game's going to be something like 65-3 or something like crazy. So 6-6. Virginia Tech is going to be. Do they win 4 games? Do they win 6 games? It's one of those teams. It's not even a momentum thing. It's more like. It's a 50-50 game, so how will your record look?
Yeah.
It'll look a lot better if you beat Virginia Tech. They're going to beat Virginia Tech, I believe. I'm saying that like it's going to be like a blowout. It's going to be a really close game. I'm pretty sure that's Colorado State first week. Am I right? That's Colorado State? I think.
Charleston Southern?
I don't know.
Yeah, I can look it up.
I think either way, I think they win that game.
And that got me curious.
Usually CSU is Colorado State.
Yeah, I've seen it as Charleston Southern as well. That's another popular. How do I go back? I got the football helmets right here. Trying to pull them up. Okay. I had the Big Ten up, though, because I thought we were talking about the Big Ten today. Speaking of the Big Ten, I'm high on Illinois. I think Illinois is going to be this year's Indiana. They return almost everybody from a 10-3 team.
Yeah, they also have a really good quarterback, I think.
Yeah, they got a favorable schedule. So I think Illinois will be this year's Indiana. So they play, it is Charleston Southern.
All right, well, then they're going to smoke Charleston Southern.
Yeah. Well, Colorado State's been bad lately, too.
Yeah, either way they're going to win that game. It's just the score is going to look a lot different. They do pick up a loss against South Carolina. I don't think that's going to be a close game. They'll beat Georgia State, Utah State. So they'll start off 4-1. I think there might be one world where they beat Alabama again, just because, they have some momentum technically, but Alabama will too. So I think Alabama's going to steamroll them. Then they have a bye. They play LSU. That's a loss. Biggest win of the season, I think they'll beat Missouri. You gotta save your every SEC game that you can win. Kentucky and Missouri are the only ones.
I could see that because Missouri survived them last year on a last-minute field goal, and that's another weird one. You were talking about Alabama and South Carolina. That could be a sneaky game for Alabama because South Carolina should have beat them in Tuscaloosa last year. And Alabama's going to be an interesting team. I think they'll rebound. I got a lot of faith in Kalen DeBoer, but there's also a scenario where they go 8-4 or 7-5 and get ugly with them. They could lose like some of these toss-up games like South Carolina and LSU and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then Kalen DeBoer is like already kind of on the hot seat on the second year.
In the fans' minds, maybe. I doubt the school was that unreasonable.
Yeah. Going right next to Nick Saban, it's hard to.
Well, I'm trying to think of the coach's name. I had it before I came over. That one that followed Bear Bryant. I think it was Mike Archer or.
I don't remember.
Yeah, in the 80s, and he was winning 9 or 10 games, but he was losing Auburn every year, and they fired him for that. And,
oh, really?
Yeah. Go back and if you go back and look at some of the history in football, Alabama had its up and downs too. They had was it 2003? They had a 4-9 season.
Yeah, that was like the year before Nick Saban came in, I think.
No, that was year. It would have been Mike Shula's first year.
Oh, really?
He was there 4 years because Saban's first year was 2007. I lived in Birmingham, Alabama when they hired Saban.
Oh.
And I remember when I went down there, it was all about Auburn because Auburn was the really good team at the time. They had Tommy Tuberville, and they were in the top 10. And Alabama was coming off, I think it was like a 7-5 kind of season. They hadn't had a good season in a while. And Saban's first year, there were nutty Alabama fans talking about firing Saban because they went 7-6. and lost to Louisiana Monroe. And
Oh.
then the following year, he went undefeated in the regular season. Now they lost to Tim Tebow in Florida.
Yeah.
Then the 2009 is when they beat Tebow. Then they went on won the national title. I had a girl I was dating. She was an Alabama graduate, and I watched it in 2009. And I was like, oh, that's kind of good. They haven't won anything in a while. And I was like, I'll be happy for her. And little did I know, I should have been cheering hard for them to lose and
Yeah.
flop after what they turned into. But
and I think their final win, I think they do pick up a win against Kentucky. We kind of have the same schedule.
Yeah.
It's just like I see, kind of the opposite, and they'll beat Missouri and Kentucky. Once again, it's not a horrible season from Vanderbilt. In fact, it's relatively good, for, ever since I was a baby. 2-10, 3-9, just about every year, except for that one year they won like 10 games, but that doesn't matter.
no, I've kept up Vanderbilt. I consider the local. They're the local team. So if I wasn't a Tennessee fan, I'd probably be. I'd probably be a Kentucky fan too, just because my grandfather was. And then Vanderbilt. They're kind of like the local team. MTSU is another one, but Vanderbilt went decades without making bowl games.
Yeah.
I mean, they had. And then they had. What was that? Bobby Johnson finally got them to a bowl game. They won that. They had the 3-year. James Franklin was there 3 years. Went 7-6, 9-4, 9-4. That's their best run. They've not gotten anywhere close to 9 games since then. The coach that came after him, I think it was 1 year they had interim, and then the coach came after him, which was I can see his name, Derek Mason. Had a few 6 and 7 years where they made bowl games but lost the bowl game, but never had a winning season. And then the current guy, which is what's his name? He went to Vanderbilt.
He's not even half bad. He's pretty good.
Well,
head coach.
he actually played for Vanderbilt. He lives and dies. He's black and gold. What is his name?
I'll search it up.
I
should know it too.
Yeah, but no, I think that if they go 6-6. Clark Lee. If they go 6-6, that's a great year for Vanderbilt. And last year was a great year for them. That was one of their best years in a long time. So, being a Vanderbilt fan, Vanderbilt's not a team that's going to come out and win 8 or 9, 10 games.
No.
It's not in this new SEC. It'd be cool to see that. A little part of you wants to see even though they're supposed to be Tennessee's rival, a little part of you wants to see the underdog come out and win a lot, like a Vanderbilt or a Kentucky or a Mississippi State. But, yeah, it's not going to happen. So, yeah, my SEC order finished: Georgia, Texas, Alabama, top 3. Then you get the next tier would be like, if I had it just for LSU, I'd probably have them higher up. LSU, Ole Miss, Missouri, Tennessee. Then it's South Carolina. Then you got like A&M after that, Oklahoma, Florida. Yeah. I'm not as high on Auburn. Auburn's probably the one we probably have the most variance on. I don't like the temperature in Auburn right now with Hugh Freeze. I think this might be a rough year for them.
So I would give the SEC like 4 tiers for teams. First tier, Georgia, Texas, Alabama. Second tier, LSU. That's it. I think it's LSU's in a really weird spot because I see them winning 10. I see them winning 10 games. I don't see them losing or winning anymore. Like the tier 3 teams, I could see them winning 7-6 games, or I could see them winning 8, 9, 10 games. LSU, which is so weird for me to say because they're always like so weird. Like people have them winning 11 games, then they'll only win 5. Or that is something crazy. I have them winning 10 games, and that just makes the most sense to me. Tier 3, South Carolina, Auburn, Florida, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Missouri. That is a lot of teams.
Yeah.
And
I could see that.
The reason that's why it sucks to play in the SEC, because there's so many like bottom feeders. If they played in the Big 12, if they played in the Big 10, they'd be top 5, 6 teams. Missouri is 11th in the SEC.
Well, Big Ten is getting better. I'll say that.
Yeah,
there are some good teams. Big Ten is, especially with those Pac-12 schools they added.
Oregon and USC.
Yeah, they added like the 4 best
Yeah.
Pac-12. I mean, I guess Utah was one they missed out on, but they got like 4 of the best programs in the Pac-12.
And then Tier 4, so weird having A&M in there, but it's not going to be a good year for A&M, and it's kind of a schedule thing. Like they played basically every like good 4 teams, and they lose every single one. So, A&M, Vandy, Arkansas, Kentucky, Mississippi State. It's all like true bottom feeders. Like they kind of don't belong in the SEC because they've stayed there for kind of a long time. But that's kind of how it just shapes out. Do you want to get into like champions and stuff like that?
Yeah, we'll talk more about the SEC. Yeah, what's that? I guess maybe that'd be a good question to open up. Let's talk first about the realignment mess which is going on, and so there's a lot of rumors out about Clemson and North Carolina now coming to the SEC, and Virginia trying. The ACC is really unstable, and it's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
Which is odd. Back when I was in college, this is 2003 or 4, the ACC at the time was expanded. And it grabbed from what was called the Big East. It grabbed Miami,
that's right.
Virginia Tech, and Boston College. Well, at that time, Miami was winning national titles. Virginia Tech was coming off a national title appearance of Michael Vick. They were winning 10 or 11 games every year. They were in the top 10 every year. Boston College was a good football program. They were winning 7, 8 games. Florida State still had Bobby Bowden, was top 10 program. NC State was really good. Georgia Tech had not fallen off the map like they had. So the ACC, people are talking about ACC is going to supplant the SEC.
Yeah.
There was actually chatter about that, and because the SEC had not, this is pre-Saban Alabama, pre-Urban Meyer Florida. Now Florida was still a good program, but Spurrier just left. Tennessee was still kind of a little bit up then. Georgia was kind of coming back with Mark Richt, but the SEC, LSU, and Auburn hadn't really exploded. And those are the big. The SEC historically has had a big 6. It's Auburn, Alabama, LSU, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee.
Yeah.
That's the big 6. And then you get like another tier, which was Arkansas and Ole Miss, and then the bottom 4. South Carolina's usually in the bottom 4.
Yeah.
I know that this year they're kind of up.
They've been good recently, but usually they're 4-8, 3-9.
Yeah, they've traditionally not been a good football program. Now they're good now. Missouri's kind of the same way. Missouri's not been a traditionally good program, but they're up now. And the SEC added Oklahoma and Texas, who are really belong in the 6. So you got the Big 8 in the SEC now. The Oklahoma and Texas are both top 10 all-time programs, and you got A&M. It's hard to say if you have a Big 9 or if you put them in the Ole Miss, Arkansas. Resource-wise, they fit with more with Alabama, Texas, Tennessee, Florida, those kind of teams. But when it comes to performance on the field, they fit better with Arkansas and Ole Miss.
Yeah, definitely.
That second tier. So that's how I'd tier the SEC. Now that's all time, but this year, I'm real close to you. I'm a little higher on A&M than probably you are. I just think they got more talent. I put LSU. I would have that tier too. I'd put LSU in it. So I'd have LSU, Ole Miss, Missouri, Texas A&M in tier 2. Florida probably could be there off its talent, but I think the schedule's going to be too hard.
Yeah.
And I put them in tier 3 because of that. Maybe Oklahoma in tier 3. South Carolina being that tier 2. Auburn, Arkansas, all of them are in tier 4. I'm not big on Auburn, I guess. They could surprise. I guess we're going the national picture now. Who around the nation now? It's more and more looking like it's the Big 10 and the SEC, with this conference realignment, the ACC collapses. You got North Carolina, who went out and got Bill Belichick, which I don't know what to make of that.
I don't.
That could be a total failure, or it could be a big win. But you got North Carolina, who's never really been that great in football. Went out and got Bill Belichick. They're making moves that a lot of the rumors are pretty credible. They could be coming this. It sounds more like the OU Texas kind of rumors than it does all these other outlandish rumors that are out there. I think if the ACC starts to collapse, Notre Dame will eventually have to grit its teeth and go in the Big 10, which they belong in the Big 10 probably if they had to go anywhere. So Big 10 would probably grab a few teams, fill some holes in, and then you would get basically two AFC, NFC. My hope is that maybe the SEC and Big 10 go big. The reason being is the conference realignment's been what's most difficult in football. A lot of people don't like the NIL, the transfer portal. I feel like the transfer portal is more of a problem than NIL, but I have not been a big fan of the conference realignment. And my thought is, well, the Big 10 and SEC just super expand and kill the other leagues. They can create these leagues within them.
Yeah.
So like the SEC could take Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Missouri, maybe Arkansas. Let's say they added Kansas and Oklahoma State and maybe a couple other the Big 12, like TCU or something, they could make like a Midwest or Great Plains, another Big 12. And the Big 10 could add like Cal and Stanford and maybe Utah and Colorado and make another Pac-12 within the Big 10.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of have like an ACC throw. It wouldn't be 100% all the teams that are in those leagues now. You would, I hate to say it, you'd drop some dead weights. And the big thing that's impacting, if you're a school and you want to be in the haves versus the have-nots, it's all about fans. How much viewership you get. Are you filling your stadium? How big is your stadium? Is your school making money? And outside the Big Ten and the SEC, I only have 4 programs that I feel like are really national title contenders. Clemson, Notre Dame, Miami. And I'm not talking about this year. I'm talking about all time.
Yeah.
Miami and Florida State. Now, Florida State's not a contender this year. But
yeah.
Florida State has that
Usually.
potential. With the right coach, right resources, right players, they could contend. Those 4 programs, I'm trying to think, outside of those 4, who that's not in the Big Ten or SEC is a national power?
No, not. I mean, there are teams that like used to for like 5-10 years, but like Stanford, like they used to for a little bit. Andrew Luck and McCaffrey, but like no, and then Cal, not really. Virginia Tech, Michael Vick, and no, and like it's there are teams with like stints of like greatness, and then they just like they just back down.
I had to look into it. So if you take out Clemson, Florida State, Miami, and Notre Dame, the last time a team that's not in the Big, the last team in the Big and SEC to win a national title was, I think, is either Colorado or Georgia Tech. I can't remember. They both won one in the early 90s. I think Colorado won one in 1990, and Georgia Tech won one in 1991.
Jesus.
So, yeah, and then you have to go BYU in 1985, and then it goes back. I think Pittsburgh won a few in the 70s, and then you're going back to the 50s. And so, you really, the Big Ten and the SEC are the leagues now, and it is frustrating seeing some of the games go. Like I mentioned that. I mentioned Missouri, Kansas. That was it's good to see that back on the schedule, but it'd have been nice to have Kansas get a home. I feel like, I guess maybe we'll go in the Big 12 a little bit, kind of talk about them. Big 12 is full of a bunch of programs that a lot of them have been okay in recent years. None of them are going to pull in top 10 talent year in and year out. None of them. I think Texas Tech is spending a lot of money and trying to get into the picture. Kansas State has had a few teams that have been really good at times. TCU made the national title. Was it a couple of years? Yeah, you remember that.
I remember that.
You remember that. I'm trying to think who the Big 12, trying to figure out who's going to win that league. Utah,
Baylor,
BYU
TCU,
has a
Kansas
huge national
State.
following. Yeah. But, it's not, there's not a lot of programs that are just going to be potential for national powers there. And it's, you feel like there's a couple of programs. Who would the SEC and Big Ten get if they went in the Big 12? Well, I feel like Kansas would have had a home if you could take Kansas and Kansas State and combine them into one program.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Arizonas. If you combine the two Arizonas and you combine the two Kansases, they're probably attractive enough. But the fact that you got 2 different programs that really split the wealth and the fan bases, it keeps them from being picked up. And then you got TCU, but they're a small private school in Fort Worth. They don't quite have the fan following. Texas Tech has an all-right fan following.
Maybe in like 5 years they could.
Texas Tech would probably be on the radar. They're far enough away from Texas and Texas A&M that they got their own kind of region and they got kind of a fan base, but they've never won at a high level. TCU and Baylor have had better seasons than they have in recent history. And then you got, I'm trying to think who else the Big 12 is even attracting. BYU got the national following.
Yeah.
But Utah,
Baylor was good one year.
West Virginia is
yeah.
They have a diehard. They're kind of like Arkansas. They're in a lower populated state, but man, they have a diehard fan base.
Yeah. They'll always end up going like 7, 8 wins, something like that.
Yeah, we should do a follow-up show, probably during the season or something, or when we have more time. Let's rate like the non-Big Ten, non-SEC schools and see which ones. See how likely they are to make the Big Ten or SEC, and just rate them out. But I don't know. What do you think about all the changes in college football? Of course, you're kind of a younger guy, so you probably weren't around during the old days.
The first realignment the first one I remember, I think it's honestly just the Texas, Oklahoma, USC, UCLA, all those teams going to SEC and the Big Ten. So
You would have missed the first one then with like Missouri and A&M and Nebraska. Leaving
yeah,
Big
I've
12.
only,
Yeah.
I mean, like what I know, I always thought A&M was just one of those teams that were always in the SEC. I never knew that they were in the Big 12.
Oh yeah, yeah. They're still pretty new. Well, like the Big East. The ACC killed the Big East.
Yeah.
And the Big East at one, had like the north. We used to have a northeastern based conference, which I really wish we could have one. My games I like to recreate the Big East. I love to stick. In order to give stability, I like to stick Penn State and Notre Dame in it. Notre Dame, even though they're kind of not in the Northeast, that's where a lot of their following is. The Catholic following. They play Boston College, Pitt, Syracuse. They're rivals with all those programs that were in that area. And you got UConn in basketball. I mean, there's potential for a solid athletic conference in that area of the country. But those teams have gone elsewhere. Chunk of them are in the Big Ten, chunk of them are in the ACC.
So I think independent schools are stupid. I think that they should be in a conference because, like, Notre Dame is my least favorite school. Just like, Alabama, number one, Notre Dame, close number two. They always get in the playoffs and they play literally nobody. And then they get slapped in the face by Alabama or Ohio, so it's like somebody random. So you're the first person that, like, I've ever heard actually, like, agree with what I would do.
Yeah.
Kind of like the NFL. Big Ten, SEC. You're going to, like, push them apart, take Big 12, just, like, chuck them in there. You'd keep the little schools little, like Conference USA, American Conference, all those little guys. It's better to keep them small, because then you don't want, like, you don't want MTSU Georgia on, like, a regular basis. Like, that's not...
Yeah. I'm a fan of... This is kind of an unpopular opinion. Now, there's some of the schools, like a Boise State, probably belong in the top division.
Yeah.
You won't realize that Southern Mississippi used to be a national power. Colorado State used to be a national. So some of those, I don't mind sticking around. I even go off some history and pick some teams like Southern Miss or East Carolina. They're terrible now, but at one time were good. But I think a lot of the newer FC, I'm a fan of sending them back down to the FCS level and consolidating more in the sport. And keep some of the stronger ones around, but drop some of the other ones.
So take all the, like, mediocre bad teams and bad conferences and chuck them in the FCS.
Yeah, and I wouldn't necessarily call them mediocre and bad. Cause take like an Appalachian State or a Liberty. I would chuck them down, but they're
really?
They're good teams. I mean, because they've only been in. 10 years ago, they weren't even in.
Yeah, they were.
FBS,
Liberty went in Division I, like, what, 5 years ago?
Yeah.
4 years ago, something like that. James Madison, 3 years ago. I don't. What I would think would work best if you do that is then, like, once you, like, combine and make, like, a super mini conference. So then it's like Tulane, UNLV, not MTSU, get out of here. Tulane, UNLV, Boise
Memphis.
State, Southern Miss, just, like, teams that were once good. And still, like, if you watch college football, they're still in the back of your mind as, like, a team that's good. And it's like a super conference of all teams that are in bad conferences but were once good.
Well, it used to be called the Metro, but when I first started football, I called it Conference USA, which is still around, but none of the teams are in Conference USA when I was first started watching football are still in it. But originally, Conference USA had, I think, a good example. This would be a good league if you put together. It had Cincinnati, Louisville, UAB, Tulane, Southern Miss, Memphis, East Carolina. I'm trying to think who else was in it. Army was in it. Houston was in it. I think SMU was in it, and then you had UCF. I think that was Conference USA back in the day. A lot of those teams have actually upgraded to, I guess you call it Power 5. I'm not sure what you'd call it. Big 12 and ACC these days, Power 4. A lot of them have upgraded, but at the time that was kind of Conference USA, and that's kind of the leagues I would, the Mountain West area, like Fresno State, San Diego State, Colorado State. Keep those. Boise State, Air Force. They've won a lot of games. They got a history, but, a lot of smaller teams, push them down.
Yeah.
Specifically ones that haven't been in there very long. I guess we're probably. I don't want to keep this show going on too long. I know we've kind of went. I'd like to do another one about conference realignment and stuff too. That'd be a good idea, especially if news starts to break during the season, which I think there could be a chance. So I will go with. I guess my national title, my playoff list. Not in order. Here's the teams I'm projecting right now to make the playoff. We'll see how accurate I am when it comes. Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, Alabama, Illinois, Clemson, Texas, a Big 12 champion. I don't know who it's going to be.
A Big 12 champion.
Yeah. G5 champion, probably Boise State. Notre Dame, Ole Miss, Penn State. That's my league. Probably the one I feel least confident about is Ole Miss. I think there's going to be another SEC team. That might be LSU in that spot instead of Ole Miss, or an A&M if they have a great year, or somebody. But maybe a Tennessee if Tennessee can upset Georgia. But I think there'll be Illinois. Watch out for them with their schedule. I was looking at the Big Ten. Penn State has to play in I think Columbia, and they got Oregon at home. They got a little bit tougher road than people.
They have to beat a team that they usually don't beat.
Yeah, they got to beat somebody they haven't beaten before. They have to get over that hump, and they've not been able to do it.
Because they play Michigan, Ohio State, and Oregon.
Yeah.
So they have to beat one of them to get in the playoffs.
Shockingly, Oregon's not on Ohio State's schedule. I thought that kind of interesting. Yeah.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was looking at that, and they got Penn State and Michigan. Ohio State does, but they don't have Oregon.
Well, then, Ohio State can lose to them, and they'd still probably make the playoffs, to be honest. Or depending on, I guess. I don't know.
So my tier one, I'm having a hard time picking a national champion, but I have a tier one. This is the ones that I think are the true contenders. There is a tier two. The tier two have to have like dream seasons. My tier one is Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, Notre Dame, who's probably my top sleeper, in Oregon. And if I had a tier two, probably LSU, Texas A&M, Tennessee. I'm trying to think. Michigan would be in that. Probably very unlikely, but Southern Cal, Miami, teams that are kind of sitting out there. They got the talent. They don't look like they can do it on paper, but if they put it all together, they can do it.
I have no idea who the national championship would be. Like, no idea. I would say if I had to do like something like best bets, Texas, Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, Clemson. Something like that. And that's a lot of teams. So, last year it was Ohio State, Oregon, Georgia. Yeah. Or Texas, maybe. There was only 4 teams, 5 teams at the most. This year there's a little more variety in who could win it. And, there's teams like honestly, LSU is a tier 2, but it's probably the most viable one because, like I said, it's really just going to come down to.
Yeah, out of my tier 2, I would agree with you. That's probably my most viable one.
If the defense just gets turnovers, then it's like they're putting up 35, 40 points. So it's it's possible for them to make a deep playoff run.
I have to go with somebody. I'm going to go with. I want to have some fun. I'll go with Notre Dame.
All right.
I want to shock. They're going to shock the world. They're very close last year. They've not been on the top of football since the 80s. They were like the elite program at one time. I'll go with Notre Dame.
I've made the correct guess 3 years in a row. I guess Georgia. I guess Georgia, Michigan, and Ohio State. So. Man, this year, I don't really know. I don't see Georgia doing it. I see they're losing somewhere like semifinals, something like they'll win a playoff game. It's Kirby Smart, but I don't see them beating like 3 or 4 teams that'll be in the semis. So I gotta give it to somebody like Penn State's just like a better Georgia right now. I'd say their defense is a little worse than Georgia, but that offense is, a few levels above Georgia. I gotta give it to Penn State.
My concern with Penn State, and this is why I feel like they can't get over the hump with Ohio State. You look at their recruiting; they have good recruiting, but it's not the level of a Michigan or Ohio State.
Yeah.
And that's my fear with Penn State, that they're going to run into a team with superior talent. And so Clemson's at 1, Georgia's 1. If I had to pick, it is tough. It is tough, and some of those teams could. Alabama, for example, could crash and burn.
Yeah.
It's some of the teams. I feel like Georgia's not going to crash and burn. I feel like Ohio State's not going to crash and burn.
Mm-hmm.
They'll be there. Clemson will be there. Penn State will. You can almost pencil them to be 10-2. They're going to be.
Yeah.
I feel they're going to be 10-2. I mean, they'll be in the picture. But yeah, it's Penn State's probably a decent one. I'll give you that. So Penn State and Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Wow. I was tempted to pick Georgia, tempted to pick Ohio State again, but I feel like they got so much to rebuild. They're not going to repeat.
Yeah.
And there's a little piece of me thought Clemson, but I still think Clemson's not quite that good.
I mean, both of those, like, Georgia, Ohio State are so, like, there's so much talent, so many 5 stars currently at both programs, but quarterback is just such, like, what's going on, you know? Like, I mean, we saw Gunnar Stockton play Notre Dame, and he was just, like, okay.
Yeah.
He threw an interception, he scored a touchdown, but he was just, I mean, his first, like, career start, I think, but he didn't play great, you know? So it's, you know, I got to search up who the starting quarterback for.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason I'm kind of high on Notre Dame. I watched them last year. Their defense was legit.
Yeah.
And they're returning a lot. And nobody's talking about Notre Dame. It's like they're not even in the picture right now. And all the national media, nobody has Notre Dame projected in the championship game. They're talking about Clemson. They're talking about LSU, Ohio State. Not talking as much about Georgia. They probably should. Some people are talking about Penn State, but yeah, there's a few out there about Alabama. Alabama with its name will be talked about until they're not good again. I think it was like that post Bear Bryant. They didn't. It took a while for me to figure out Bear Bryant wasn't there anymore. But I think we've kind of used up enough time with everybody. I thank you everybody for watching. Those who watched, and looking forward to continuing doing this stuff. We may do some drop-ins through the season. Collin, I enjoyed it. I just enjoyed sitting and talking to you, man. You know your stuff. You had me there are a few things had me like LSU rethinking some of my thoughts because I wasn't as confident on some of my picks.
Yeah. Love watching football, man. Yeah.
So, but we'll get together. We'll probably have, like I said, I'd love to talk about more conference realignment in the future. Maybe do some updates during the season, change some stuff based on what we're seeing. We'll kind of go from there. So, this kind of new, kind of starting out. So, hopefully we can improve. Leave comments, ideas on how we can improve. Sounds good.
Yeah. Thanks so much for watching.